Everyone, Zoe Cavotta here. So I made some great progress with my Labster project for my students. I spent a ton of time this week on my How to Use Labster resource page for my students. I had access to all of the Labster simulations these past few weeks from a sales rep. So I was able to go in and actually play around with the atomic structures simulation that I want my students to complete for this activity. So with that being said, I was able to take some awesome screenshots. I got to go through the simulation myself, see how it ran, made sure that it could run on my students' Chromebooks while at school. I also tested it at home just to make sure. I did a stress test just to make sure that students would be able to use this both at home and in school using their Chromebooks. So after doing all of that, I went through the simulation and took some screenshots to incorporate into a slideshow and a tutorial video for my students that I incorporated on my resource page. So I have inserted the slideshow presentation here for students to look at as well as yourself. And then I've also created a tutorial video where I go through the slides on the slideshow presentation and explain them just a little bit further. So I would have my students watch this tutorial video. After going through the simulation, I think it would be useful to actually incorporate a whole other lesson on how to use Labster into my unit plan. So I did also do that and incorporated that onto my materials for the unit page on my website. I've now added a fifth lesson where we will take some time in class to have my students explore how to use Labster before they actually do it for the actual project. So I've embedded a nice button here, so when students go to that lesson, it'll now bring them to the How to Use Labster resource page. So I'm going to have them watch the tutorial video. Then I've also incorporated just some screenshots of the various tools students will need as they go through the simulation, and I've provided a brief little description on each of those resources there. The last thing, just to make sure my students actually take this time to play around with Labster before they get started on their project, is I've incorporated an activity for them to go through the lab safety, the free simulation. And then after that, they're going to click on this Google Forms link and just complete a 5-question Google Forms quiz just to make sure, again, that they're actually doing the safety simulation and going through and actually learning about the resources before starting their project. As I noted here on my website, I can't actually provide a link for you, my peers, to see the simulation. We do have to pay for the Labster resources, so they only allow me to upload assignments and links to the resources and simulations through my Google Classroom. The challenges I'm finding as I'm going through Labster now are it is quite expensive. For my school district, it's going to be about $6,400 just for the year for 12 months. So I'm working with my colleagues right now to I have access to their faculty resource page to kind of make sure this is something moving forward we want to use. There are obviously cheaper simulations out there, but I'm loving how up-to-date and new Labster is, and also that piece of the fact that the Dr. One artificial intelligence guides the students through the activity. So this is an awesome resource for me to use for students who are chronically absent. They can just be guided through the activity and do this right at home. So I'm really pushing for my school to buy this resource, and I'm hoping it's something we can use in the future. So I'm continuing on with the project and building up this website and the activity and project for our class, and hoping that I can either get a grant or convince my department to actually purchase this for the school year for next year. But that's my progress. Those are some of the challenges I'm facing right now. And I think for next week, the next thing I want to work on is my project materials and resources there and how I'm going to grade my students on this actual project. Thank you.